We have rumors floating around the NHL that the Toronto Maple Leafs might be looking at a massive change if they can't go deep into the playoffs. I'll get into this later on this episode. Before I start, I just want to say to thousands of you watching that aren't subscribed, if you're enjoying this daily NHL content and you never want to miss another episode, make sure to go down and hit that subscribe button. It's completely free and you'll keep up to date with everything around the NHL. With that, let's hop straight into the first topic today, which is Leafs could be looking at massive changes. Now, there was a report that came out today from James Myrtle of The Athletic, and he did talk on how the Leafs might look at doing a complete shakeup if they don't make a deep run this year. And he says, they lose in the first round, there's going to be a pretty big changes. And there could be big changes this year and potentially even the year after. Brendan Shanahan's got 1 year left on his deal. There's a new president of MLSE, and this could be interesting for the Toronto Maple Leafs. I mean, like it says here, first off, Brendan Shanahan is coming close to the end of his deal with the Toronto Maple Leafs, and things have not went to the Shanahan plan completely, and we could see big changes. He continues on to say, there's a lot going up at the top of the Leafs, and I know for a fact ownership is not happy at all with the performance of the team in the playoffs. Like, they're pissed. If there's another really disappointing first round exit, they're going to want blood. And I don't know if firing the coach is enough. I think they're going to want more than that. So obviously, this is a huge report coming out that the Leafs could be looking at maybe just firing the coach, firing Shanahan, moving players to make the change needed for this team to go deep. He continues on and it kind of says how MLC did sign their new president, Keith Pelly, which is the fifth president and CEO, on January 11th. He has begun his tenure as the head of the company on April 2nd. All eyes will likely be on the Toronto Maple Leafs given their lack of playoff success in the recent years. Yes, the Leafs have had outstanding players. We're seeing Austin Matthews have an outstanding season with 68 goals while I'm recording. This is a guy that's looking to reach the 70-goal plateau and beyond just this season, but things have not panned out. When you do look at the Leafs from 2013, you can see all these consecutive losses in the first round. There was one win in the first round. But you look and you see they lost to the Bruins in 7. 3 straight years from 2013-14 all the way up to 2015-16, they did not qualify for the playoffs. They lost to the Capitals in 6. They lost to the Bruins in 7. Once again, the year after, the Bruins in 7. You continue on and just seeing they didn't qualify and lost in the qualifying round to the Columbus Blue Jackets. They lost to the Montreal Canadiens. They lost to the Lightning. Last year, they did end up beating the Lightning. They struck Lightning on this one, 1 in 6, and they continued to almost be swept by the Florida Panthers in the next round of the playoffs, which ultimately led to their dismissal from the NHL playoffs. Now, like I said, this team has talent. We see William Nylander, Mitch Marner, John Tavares, Austin Matthews, Morgan Rielly, Joseph Woll coming up as a stud. They added talent like Tyler Bertuzzi, Max Domi, John Klingberg, which obviously didn't work out, Ryan Reeves. They added players. They wanted new faces to this locker room to look at a deep run. The Leafs are currently third in the Atlantic, 79 games played, 46 wins, 24 losses, 9 overtime losses for 101 points. You see them just above the Lightnings, just below the Panthers, and it seems like they're looking at a date with the Florida Panthers in the first round of the playoffs, just after last season when they did lose. Obviously, if they end up losing to the Panthers, it's going to cause a massive domino effect, which could completely shake up this Toronto Maple Leafs team that we know and completely change everything. Like I said, currently they look like they'll be playing the Panthers. Last year when they played the Panthers, obviously Bobrovsky was a huge reason for this, but they did lose in just 5 games to them in the second round after finally making it to the second round in what felt like 30 years. With this team struggling, with this team still not lacking the killer mentality, with them still not being able to be looked at as a contender because of their collapses, we might see the shakeup that I've been saying here, that James Myrtle talked about, and that fans might be wanting. When you do look at the players just over the past 20 seasons with the Toronto Maple Leafs, since 2013, you look at some of the names. Austin Matthews obviously has the most points. You have William Nylander, Mitch Marner, John Tavares, JVR, Kadri, Bozak, Hyman, which really does hurt to say, Phil Kessel, Morgan Riley, Joffrey Lupul, Leo Komarov, Michael Bunting, Merlot, Brown, Engvall, Kapanen. I'm not going to continue reading this entire list, but you see how many players this team has went through, how many new faces we've had to see. Guys like Kelly Yarncroke is still on the roster. Jason Spezza now a part of the Pittsburgh Penguins organization. Mikheyev, which is on one of the top teams in the West for Vancouver. You're seeing these names here. A lot of these names aren't here. A lot of these names aren't in the league. And seeing the turnover rate on the Toronto Maple Leafs kind of makes you think on what's going to happen with all these players. Now, obviously, you can look at the forwards. You see Austin Matthews. In my opinion, this guy is untouchable. You do not move him. Like I said, 68 goals this year. You hold on to him at all costs. John Tavares has 2 years left on his deal. He's the captain of the team. Mitch Marner is there with 2 years left on his deal. Once again, to be the last year of the deal after this season. William Nylander just signed to an extension. Then you have a lot of pending UFAs and RFAs and guys like Bertuzzi, Domi. There's so many names here, and there's so many different ways this team might be shaken up. I think the first domino to go would be Sheldon Keefe being fired as the head coach. I know a lot of fans have been calling for this for quite some time, so if they do fail to make the run, it seems like this might be the first thing to happen. When you look at the forwards, I kind of want to look at forwards, defensemen, and goalies. With the forwards, I think Austin Matthews, John Tavares, and a guy like William Nylander out of these top core four, if you want to call it, are the untouchables. This is where you might see a guy like Mitch Marner moved on. Am I saying I want him moved? No, most certainly not. I don't want any of these players moved, but just kind of speculating on what might happen. You see guys like Tyler Bertuzzi and Max Domi. I want to put it out there first and foremost. Domi has to be resigned. We've seen him last night against Memich, kind of fighting him because he didn't like the way he pushed Matthews. This guy bleeds blue, and he has to stay in the lineup. Guys like Bertuzzi is a perfect fit. This is where I could see a guy like David Kampf maybe moved on. And it's hard to figure out exactly what forwards will end up being moved. You look at the defense and the goaltending here as well. With the defense, Morgan Riley is locked in. I don't think this is a contract they'll end up moving. I don't think it's a contract they want to move. Guys like TJ Brody, I'm almost certain at this point will not be re-signed in the offseason. I've liked TJ Brody during his offseason or during his seasons here, but it seems like it's time to move on for a more shutdown, pure, right-handed defenseman. Guys like Jake McCabe still has 1 year left. I'm happy he's coming back. Connor Timmins could be attached to a pick to trade at draft for something else. You see guys like Timothy Liljegren, who's an RFA. They need to sign. There's so many pieces here. Other than Benoit, there's a lot of guys on the last year of their deal or looking at the window of going into UFA. Now with the goaltending, Joseph Woll obviously will not be moved. If a deep run doesn't happen, I could see them looking for more of a veteran goaltender. Then Ilya Samsonov, obviously Martin Jones won't be brought back as a starting goalie or backup goalie. But in general, there's so many players here that might end up getting moved. And as I said, this might come down to the Toronto Maple Leafs making a massive shakeup that's going to shock fans, shock the world, and might ultimately be the right call or might be the wrong call. I know this is a lot to bring in, but what's your guys' thoughts on this? If the Leafs do lose in the first round, early second, getting swept, whatever it might be, and massive changes have to happen, what do you want happening? What players would you want to see going out? What players are must keep other than Austin Matthews? Because that's an obvious one. And what's your thoughts on the future with this team? Do you want a new coach? Do you want Shanahan gone? Are you happy with Brad Treliving? There's so much in the air, and this playoffs is going to be a super important one for the Leafs, their fans, and especially the players on the roster. But with that, let's hop into everyone's favorite topic, which is comments of the day. And the comment of the day today, sorry about that, does come from Kenneth the Mans. And he says, "You guys rock. I'm a Leafs fan. I truly believe that without the Coyotes, Austin Matthews would be doing something different with his life and not playing hockey. What a shame that would have been." And honestly, I completely agree. Austin Matthews is the greatest Leaf of all time. And just knowing that he could have been doing something other than potting 68 goals for the Leafs is just crazy to think about. But that'd be it for this episode of Hat Trick HQ. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to go down, hit the like button, leave a comment. You could be featured on the episode, the next comment of the day. And with that, take care.